I am a 33-year-old guy, and for the first time in my entire life, I finally did something that was entirely, unapologetically for myself. No family expectations, no emotional blackmail, no guilt trips. I bought my dream house. And before anyone imagines some millionaire mansion, let me be clear. My dream is simple. It is a cozy two-bedroom, two-bath craftsman on half an acre in Oregon, with big windows that flood the living room with morning light, real hardwood floors that creak in the most comforting way, and a backyard large enough to build the workshop I promised myself at 12 years old when I was sanding scrap wood in my grandparents' garage. It was perfect, and I did not tell a single soul in my family. Not my mother, not my stepfather, not my father, not my half-sister Lily. No one. And before anyone calls me secretive, dramatic, or controlling, I need to explain what growing up in my family was like. I was the responsible one since I was old enough to reach the top shelf. I was the built-in helper, the third parent, the wallet, the driver, the fixer of everything from broken appliances to broken relationships. My half-sister Lily is 26 now. She is my mother's daughter from her second marriage, and she has been labeled the baby who needs protecting since the day she was born. Even when she was old enough to vote, the family still acted like she was made of glass. Lily has two kids now, Mason, who is 4, and Abby, who is 6. Their dad bolted the moment diapers and daycare started costing more than takeout, and ever since then, every time Lily tripped, the entire family turned to me as if I was the human safety net they all pitched money into. Except they never pitched anything. I covered bills, I covered rent, I fixed her car twice, I paid deposits, I babysat overnight so Lily could go out. I gave her money that I should have been saving. All while I worked 2 jobs and lived in a rental with peeling linoleum and a leaky shower. My mother always said in the most patronizing voice imaginable that I was good with money and Lily needed help, and that responsible people like me were built to support family. Meanwhile, I was drowning. So when I finally closed on my house after years of grinding myself into dust, I kept it quiet. Not out of spite, out of self-preservation. I packed my boxes at night, moved over a quiet weekend, and only once I was fully settled did I send a single group text that said, "New house. I will host dinner next weekend." That was my fatal mistake. I should have texted from the airport while boarding a one-way flight to anywhere else, because the moment they walked into my home, everything went downhill in the most predictable, maddening way. Saturday at 6 o'clock, my driveway looked like a used car dealership. My mother, my stepfather, Lily, the kids, my aunt, her husband, even their teenage son, who I swear has never spoken directly to me. They walked into my house as if it were a museum tour titled, "Look What Ethan Finally Did Right." My aunt immediately opened cabinets like she was inspecting a rental. My mother ran her fingers over the counters and said that the kitchen would be perfect once I had kids. Lily announced loudly that the windows were nicer than hers, as if she were already claiming the space. My stepfather asked if the hardwood was real. My aunt's husband said that the living room would be great for family gatherings once I learned to decorate correctly. I tried to keep a smile plastered on my face, reminding myself that I was the owner of this house and these people were guests. But then the comments kept coming. Little digs, patronizing nonsense, people congratulating me as if I had finally grown up. Then we sat down for dinner. I grilled salmon, roasted vegetables, and even made a berry crisp because I was trying to show them that I was happy. I wanted a normal family moment. And that was when my mother clinked her glass the way she does before making one of her world-ending announcements. She smiled at me and said that they had all talked it over. I had no idea there were meetings happening about my house, but apparently that was now a thing. And she said, completely serious, completely confident, completely oblivious to how horrifying her words were, that it made the most sense for Lily and the kids to move in with me. She said I did not have children of my own anyway. She said it like it was a fact, like it was a logical decision, like she was informing me that the sky was blue. People around the table nodded. My aunt even clapped. My stepfather muttered that this house was big enough, and Lily smiled a smug little smile like the arrangement had been drafted, signed, and notarized weeks ago. My mother continued, as if reading from a script, that Lily should take the bigger bedroom because she had the children, and I could take the smaller one, and that I would help with the kids again because it was best for everyone. I genuinely thought I was hallucinating. I thought maybe the salmon had gone bad, and this was some kind of fever dream, where people applaud while taking possession of my home like it is a reality show prize. The only sound in the room was the kids chewing garlic bread while everyone else stared at me like I was expected to nod politely and accept my new role as the custodial, uncle slash unpaid caregiver slash roommate I never signed up for. I put down my fork and I said, Are all of you out of your minds?" The table froze like someone hit pause on a movie. I told them that I bought this house with my own money, that I worked for years while they watched me bleed financially so their lives could stay comfortable, and that I had not spent all that time grinding so Lily could get a free upgrade and I could become the live-in nanny again. My mother snapped that I should not talk like that because family helps each other. I told her that I had been helping for 10 years and had gotten nothing but more responsibility, more guilt, and more expectation. My aunt tried to interrupt, but I kept going because once the dam burst, years of resentment poured out. I told them about the $14,000 I had given Lily over the years, the car repairs, the childcare, the groceries, the deposits, all the things I paid for while everyone treated me like the reliable backup plan. I told them that my entire adult life had been postponed because the family motto had become that I would handle it. I looked Lily in the eye and said that she enjoyed dumping her responsibilities on me because it was easier. And I looked at my mother and said she enabled Lily because she could not admit that her grown daughter needed to stand on her own feet. And then I looked at the table full of people who had been nodding and clapping and cheering like this was a charity auction. And I told them that none of them had paid a single bill for me since I was 17 years old, and that no one was moving into my house. Not for a week, not for a night, not ever. The silence after that was nuclear. Lily finally exploded and asked if I was really going to let her children struggle. I told her her children would not struggle. She would struggle if she continued relying on everyone around her instead of acting like an adult. My mother called me selfish. I told her that if protecting my own home made me selfish, then she should get used to calling me selfish because it felt incredible. Everyone left in a mix of rage, shock, and offended huffing. The kids were confused. Lily was crying. My aunt looked like she was going to start an exorcism. My mother called me later and said that I was going to regret what I had done. I told her that I already regretted answering the phone, and then I hung up. I thought that would be the end of it, but families do not go down quietly. 2 days after the dinner disaster, when I had finally stopped replaying the moment my entire family applauded the idea of turning my home into a charity shelter I never volunteered to run, I drove home from work with the naive hope that the storm had passed. For a brief moment, I even allowed myself to think they had accepted my boundaries. That fantasy died the instant I turned onto my street and saw a massive moving truck parked across my driveway like a siege engine pointed straight at my sanity. Not a small truck. A full-size rental truck that looked like it was prepared to move an entire colony to Mars. And standing there as if this was the most normal thing in the world were my mother and Lily. Lily's kids were sprinting around my front yard, tossing toys onto the grass, climbing onto the porch railing, and leaving chalk drawings on the walkway like they already lived there. My stomach dropped through the floorboard of my car. It was so surreal that for a few seconds I just sat there with the engine running, staring, waiting for someone to jump out and yell that it was all a joke. But my mother waved at me with the confidence of a woman who had rewritten reality in her head and decided I would comply. She said, with the kind of voice people use when they have already made plans without input, that they knew I had been overwhelmed and that they were going to unpack everything inside while we talked. Lily stood beside her with her arms crossed, already wearing that defensive martyr face, as if she had been personally wounded by the idea of paying her own rent. My mother acted like I was a confused toddler who simply needed supervision. She said that it was fine, they would take care of the move and we would go over the details once everything was inside. I felt something cold settle in my chest. It was the exact moment I realized my family did not just disrespect boundaries, they denied their existence. They believed that my life, my home, and my work belonged to them by default. I stepped out of the car, walked over with the calmest expression I could manage, and told them they had 60 seconds to get off my property. My mother's face twisted instantly. She said in the most dismissive tone that this was not my property. It was family property, and that I needed to stop being dramatic. I told her that the mortgage company would very strongly disagree, considering my name was the only one printed on every document. She waved her hand like the law had never applied to her and said that it did not matter, because this was what the family needed, and I had always helped before. Lily chimed in with an exhausted sigh, saying I should stop being selfish and start thinking about the children. She said that she could not afford her apartment anymore and I had extra room, so it made sense. I told them again to leave. They refused. They stood rooted in place like they were planting themselves into the soil, and then Lily took a step toward the truck, clearly ready to start unloading boxes and force the situation. That was when I took out my phone. I told them that if they touched a single box, the police would be here before the truck door finished opening. My mother looked absolutely scandalized, as if I had threatened to burn down a church. She said I would not dare. I said I absolutely would. I said I would not spend another decade sacrificing my sanity for a family who treated me like an unpaid employee. That was the moment something finally cracked in them. Lily started crying loudly, full body shaking, dramatic tears, repeating over and over that I was choosing a house over blood. My mother threw her hands in the air, repeating that I was abandoning family. She said she could not believe I would call the cops on my own mother. Lily sank onto the porch steps like she was auditioning for a tragic play, while her kids watched with wide eyes, confused and overstimulated by the chaos. They kept yelling. My mother kept accusing. Lily kept insisting that I owed her this because I had helped her before. She tried to guilt trip me by saying the kids deserved stability, as if I was the one who had made every reckless choice that led to this point. I repeated that my home was not a shelter, not a free upgrade, and not a place to dump responsibilities. I told them I was not sacrificing the one peaceful thing I had ever worked for. I told them I was choosing peace over chaos. My mother called me ungrateful. Lily said I had changed. My mother said she did not raise me to be cold. I told her I was finally warm for the first time in my life because I was out of the constant drain of their expectations. Eventually, after enough threats, enough yelling, and enough refusing to back down, they left. Not gracefully, not with dignity, but they left. My mother grabbed Lily by the arm, shoved her toward the truck, and screamed at me that I would regret treating family this way. Lily was crying into her hands, repeating that she had no one else. I wanted to feel bad. A small part of me tried to. But then I looked at the truck, at the kids' toys scattered across my lawn, at my mother's car blocking half the street, at the entitlement radiating from their every movement, and all I felt was relief that they were getting back into the truck instead of into my house. They drove away slowly, honking once as if I had personally ruined their vacation plans. I walked inside, locked the door behind me, and let out a breath I felt like I had been holding for years. I thought that might be the end of it. Then my phone buzzed. It was my mother. 15 texts in a row, long accusations, all caps, guilt, emotional manipulation. She said I was cold-hearted. She said she did not recognize me anymore. She said I had betrayed my family. She said real men provided for their sisters. She said I was choosing a house over people. She said the children would grow up knowing I abandoned them. Then my aunt joined in for her usual soap opera commentary. She sent me a long rant that boiled down to the most predictable line of all time. My aunt chimed in with, "You'll die alone." Classic. Apparently, my mother decided to rewrite history before the dust had even settled. By the next morning, the entire extended family had a brand new version of events that cast her as a martyr, Lily as a homeless victim, and me as the villain who heartlessly shoved a single mother and her two innocent children onto the streets. She conveniently left out the part where she and Lily showed up with a full-size moving truck like a squad of squatters attempting a coordinated takeover. According to her, I had become cold, cruel, and detached from family. According to her, Lily had nowhere to go because of my selfishness. She left out the part where Lily still had an apartment she simply did not want to pay for because my house was larger, nicer, and free. Within hours, I started getting passive-aggressive texts from relatives who had not spoken to me since 2016. They ranged from guilt trips to thinly veiled threats about how family always comes first. I realized quickly that if my mother had turned this into a smear campaign, I needed to respond before the entire clan signed up for the next round of emotional harassment. So I posted in the family group chat. I wrote that since my mother had left out a few relevant details, I would provide the full picture. Then I listed everything, every dollar I had given Lily over the years, with dates and itemized reasons. Car repairs, deposits, grocery runs, emergency rent coverage. I listed all the times I had babysat for free so Lily could go out, the hours I lost from work, the overtime I had taken to make up for it. I explained the moving truck incident in full, how they arrived unannounced, tried to move in without permission, and how my mother had declared that my home was not my home, but family property. I ended the message by writing that if any of them believed Lily deserved my home more than I did, they were welcome to take her in themselves, and I would happily help her pack. But she would never live with me. Not now, not ever. Then I hit send and waited. The group chat went silent in a way I had never seen before. In my family, silence is rare. Silence usually means the truth landed so hard that no one could spin it fast enough to keep up. Eventually, one message popped up. It was my cousin Jake. He said that good for me and that his mother had tried to pull the same stunt with him last year when he bought a condo. According to him, Lily had been telling everyone she was waiting for my house to be ready. She had been planning her move-in day for months. Suddenly, everything clicked. The comments she had made in the past about how she wished she had more space, the weird hints about how lucky I would be to live near family, the joking suggestions that I should save her a room. She had not been joking. She had been preparing. The silence that followed in the chat was almost satisfying. Almost. My mother did not message. She did not defend herself. She did not apologize. She simply disappeared from the conversation like she had deleted her involvement in the entire thing. She has not spoken to me since. That night, my stepfather showed up at my front door. I almost did not answer. I assumed he was there to echo whatever narrative my mother had built. But when I opened the door, he stood there holding a six-pack and looking more exhausted than angry. He looked like a man who had not slept since the moving truck fiasco. He said he owed me an apology. He said he had been trying to reason with my mother for 2 days and it had gone nowhere. He explained that she had convinced herself that I had bought the house for the family, not for myself, and that she had been building that fantasy for so long that any contradiction felt like betrayal to her. When I told him that was completely unhinged, he nodded and said he knew that now. And then he said something I never expected from him. He told me that if I wanted space for my mother for a while, I should take it, and that he would not blame me. He admitted that Lily had been using the family as a safety net for too long, and that every time someone bailed her out, she learned nothing. He said that enabling her had only made her more helpless and more entitled. He said that I had every right to protect what I had earned, and that he respected me for standing firm. It was the closest thing to support I had heard from any family member in a decade, and I will be honest, it felt strange. It was like a small crack of sanity appearing in a house full of delusion. The twist came the next day when Lily texted me. She wrote that our mother had told her she needed to find her own solution. Then she added that I had ruined everything. I stared at that message for a long moment because it summed up the entire dynamic. I was the villain for refusing to sacrifice my life to make hers easier. I wrote back that she was welcome. It was the simplest truth I could offer. Since then, the quiet has been unfamiliar. The house feels larger, calmer, more mine than ever. No one knocking on the door. No one hinting for money. No one calling with emergencies of their own creation. I wake up without bracing for chaos. I make coffee without anticipating someone asking for a favor before noon. I eat dinner without hearing the echo of guilt trips. My mother will come around eventually, or she will not. Lily will find a solution, or she will not. But for the first time, those outcomes are not my responsibility. I bought my home with my own money for my own life, and I get to keep it that way. I finally learned that peace is something you protect fiercely, even from the people who claim to love you the most. And for the first time in years, I feel like I am finally living in my own life instead of surviving inside someone else's expectations. The story ends here, and it ends with me keeping my home, my boundaries, and my peace.